We all make choices, but in the end, our choices make us. At first glance, it sounds almost comforting, like a reminder that we have control, that we are the authors of our lives. But sit with it long enough and it turns sharp. Because if our choices make us, then the person I am right now didn't just appear. He was assembled, slowly, deliberately, piece by piece. And most of the pieces were chosen in moments that felt insignificant at the time. When I say everything is our fault, I don't mean fault in the way people usually hear it. I'm not talking about guilt or punishment or self-hate. I mean fault as in ownership, as in, this is where I am, good or bad, because of the decisions I made when no one was watching, when excuses were easy, when comfort was cheaper than courage. No one likes that idea. It ruins too many comforting stories. We like to believe life is something that happens to us, that circumstances arrive uninvited and rearrange everything without asking. And sure, there are things we never chose, where we were born, what broke us early, who failed us when we needed them most. But there comes a point, quietly, where those explanations expire, where the past stops being an alibi and starts being a mirror. And what stares back is uncomfortable. The truth is, most people don't ruin their lives in dramatic ways. There's no single catastrophic choice, no clear villain. It's slower than that. Quieter. A life erodes the same way stone does underwater, not by force, but by repetition. One compromise that felt reasonable. One silence that felt safer. One, I'll deal with it later, that never came due. We underestimate small choices because they don't hurt immediately. Skipping discipline once feels harmless. Avoiding a difficult conversation feels like peace. Staying in a place you've outgrown feels familiar, almost loyal. But those choices don't disappear. They stack, they fossilize. And one day you wake up and realize you've been living inside the result of decisions you barely remember making. That's the cruel part. No one announces, this is the choice that will shape who you become. It usually shows up disguised as relief. There's a strange comfort in blaming fate, society, timing, or other people. It lets you remain innocent, passive, untouched by responsibility. But innocence is expensive. It costs you agency. Because the moment everything is someone else's fault, nothing can truly be changed by you. You become a spectator in your own life, clapping or booing from the sidelines while time keeps moving forward without mercy. Responsibility, on the other hand, is heavy. It presses down on the chest. It forces you to admit that you stayed longer than you should have, that you didn't try when you could have, that you chose distraction over effort, numbness over growth, comfort over becoming. It means admitting that the distance between who you are and who you wanted to be wasn't caused by lack of potential, but by lack of action sustained long enough to matter. We don't become who we dream of. We become who we repeatedly choose. Every habit is a vote. Every reaction is a brick. Every excuse is a thread woven into the person we will eventually have to live with. Character isn't built in moments of intensity. It's built in moments of boredom, temptation, fatigue, and fear. When no one is applauding, when quitting would go unnoticed, when discipline feels pointless because the reward is too far away to taste. That's where most people lose themselves, not in chaos, but in comfort. I think of choices like footprints in wet cement. At first, you don't realize they're permanent. You step, move on, step again. But time hardens everything, and one day you look back and see a path you didn't consciously choose, yet somehow followed all the same. Not because you were forced, but because you didn't resist. And resistance is exhausting. It's easier to drift, easier to let days blur together, easier to tell yourself you'll change once conditions improve. But conditions rarely improve on their own. They respond to pressure, to insistence, to uncomfortable decisions made without guarantees, the kind that don't feel heroic in the moment but demand sacrifice anyway. When people talk about becoming someone else, they usually imagine transformation as an event, a breakthrough, a sudden shift. But becoming is usually dull and repetitive. It's waking up and choosing the harder option again, and again, and again, until the harder option becomes familiar, then automatic, then part of you. That's how choices make us, not by drama, but by insistence. There's an old image that comes to mind. A man dragging chains behind him, convinced they were placed there by the world. Only later does he realize he forged them himself, link by link, every time he said, "Just this once." Every time he ignored the quiet voice telling him this wasn't who he wanted to be. The chains were never locked. He just never tried to take them off.